In this video, we're going to talk about how to contribute to open source and actually take you through the steps. But first, for those who don't know, what is open source? Well, a lot of technology that has been created on the internet that we know today has been built on top of open source projects. And open source projects means that anybody can view the code. Anybody can see the code of a program, can inspect it, can modify it, can enhance it. In this way, the idea is that by sharing this information with everybody, we get everybody's input and we use the collective mind to improve software. Not only that, but it also benefits everybody, right? For example, the most famous example of an open source project is Linux, an operating system just like Windows or Mac OS, except it's built by everyday programmers. And it's code that is completely open sourced. Anybody can inspect the code, add on to it, and it's become so successful that most of the cloud that we know of, the servers usually run Linux. AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, all of them use Linux. Some of you might be running Linux right now as you watch this video. So not only do you get to work with other developers from around the world, where you can build great projects by just working in teams, by learning how open source works, well, you don't have to create something as big as Linux. You can create a project with a friend, something very small and simple. It doesn't really matter. The idea is of collaboration, of openness and sharing code to hopefully improve on the collective knowledge. Finally, a lot of employers actually look upon open source contribution as a plus. So if you're able to put in your resume that you're an open source contributor, well, that's a good sign. Plus, it teaches you valuable skills using Git and GitHub to work in teams. If you're looking for job experience but you don't have a job, contributing to open source is the perfect way for you to learn how to work in teams and mimic a work-like scenario. This is a really important video and something I'm really excited about. So let's show you how to make your first open source contribution. Improve your resume, learn some real-life skills, and have fun along the way. Now, we've actually created some open source projects for you for this course. We have the Zero to Mastery repository here, where we can see that we have about 64 projects open right now with about 2,000 contributors. That's a lot of people, and this number is bound to increase. Now, this place was created as a practice ground for you, a playground. Nobody will yell at you if you break things. You can contribute, add silly things, whatever you want. It's a testing ground. The idea is to have as much fun as possible and make it as easy as possible to contribute to open source. Now, within that organization, we have a great community of administrator or management team that will help you with these open source projects. By the way, who are these administrators? They're right here. Ignore my name. I help out as well, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting. And they are past students, just like you, that have had a bit of experience now. Most of them are working full-time, but they are now helping out the community by helping with our open source projects, our Discord, and generally just helping our community grow. So shout out to them. If you get a chance, say hi to them on Discord. They definitely do a lot for this community. They're very active on Discord and they really help maintain all of our open source projects. So let's learn how to make our very first open source contribution. I do want to note here that this isn't the only way for you to contribute to open source. This is just a playground that we've created for you. But once you contribute here, you can go off and contribute to all the other open source projects all over GitHub that you can find. You can contribute to projects like React and Angular. The world is your oyster. Or you can just stick to these, as we actually have a ton of projects here that are fun. We have events going on like Hacktoberfest. Well, we'll get to that shortly. We definitely have a great community of developers, and we can create some awesome projects together. Now, the way you want to get started is to first go to the Start Here guidelines. Now, in the Start Here guidelines, and I'll link to this page, you actually have a 4-step guide to get started. The first thing you want to do is to actually watch the Get Started guideline. A fellow student actually created this guide for you to follow the steps that I'll mention in this video. So you always have this as a reference. So after this video, definitely check out this document as a reference. But otherwise, once you've browsed through the document, make your first pull request. So if you've already watched my Git and GitHub videos, you should be all set. Otherwise, hopefully you're familiar with Git and GitHub. Now, the first thing we want to do is to actually add our names to the contributors.md file in this project. So if you go up, you'll see that we have a contributors.md, which stands for Markdown file. And if I click on here, you see that all the contributors that we have over 1,000 contributors. And if you scroll down, these are all their GitHub names. So your first task is to actually add your name to this list. So how can we do this? Well, we can just clone this repository, but a more recommended way of usually contributing to open source is to fork the project. Fork essentially means copy over the entire project and put it on your own GitHub profile. So if I click fork here, and we see over here that you can select where you want to fork the project and you want to select your profile. So once we fork this project, we make a copy of it. It's like we own this repository now with our own version of the Start Here guidelines. So once we have this, we can clone this repository using SSH or HTTPS, whatever you prefer. In my case, I'll use SSH so that I don't have to use my password every time. I can now say git clone and clone this repository. Now we can cd into Start Here guidelines, and we can open this up in our favorite text editor. Now, once here, let's clear this. We have the contributors file, which we need to add our name to. Now you can see here the contributors file is getting quite long because, well, we've got a lot of students who are contributing to open source. But at the very end, make sure you're at the very end here, you want to add your own name. Now here's the thing. Right now we're on the master branch, but I'm going to show you what a good practice is. We have our forked project, and we want to create a new branch to work off of instead of master by saying git checkout -b to create a new branch. And we want to name this branch. In our case, let's just name it test. If I hit enter, you'll see that now I'm on a new branch called test. And in this branch, I can add my name to this contributor list. In your case, you'll want to use your own GitHub profile. So we're using Markdown here, which is a syntax to write and have some functionality. For example, if we go to the contributors list, you'll notice that they are all clickable links. So we essentially use the same notation. We do a dash, square brackets with your GitHub username, and then in the parentheses, we just have the actual URL that you want to link to. In our case, the GitHub username that you have. So your GitHub username here, GitHub username here. Once we do that, we can save this file and now go back to our terminal and say git status. And we see here that, yeah, we just modified our contributors.md file. And if I do git diff to see any changes that we've made, we see that we've added this new line. So let's clear this. We have our name all set up, and we can now add this commit by saying git add and dot for everything. We'll add everything. And then git commit. And we'll write a message that says, added my name to contributor list. There we go. So now it's time for us to push these changes. Now, if I do git push origin master, well, right now, what that would mean is that we want to push to origin, and the origin is this start here guideline, which I forked. So the origin is actually my version of the project. And if I want to push to master, that is the main branch. But we don't want to do that because ideally, we want to be able to also change and add our name to the original Zero to Mastery Start Here guideline because this is the main project. So what we can do is instead of master, push to our test branch. So we say git push origin test. There we go. Now, if I go back here and go to my project and I refresh, I now have two branches, the master branch and also the test branch, which I just updated. So one way to do this is to click on new pull request. And you can add comments here like I've added my name to the list, and you can tag some of our maintainers. In my case, I'll just tag myself. If I do create pull request, I now have my pull request. And notice here how my pull request is now at the Zero to Mastery Start Here guideline. So that if I go back to our Start Here guideline, I see that I'm part of the pull request now, right here. And because I've tagged one of the management teams, so in this case, it was myself, or you can tag any of the management team that we have. Now, in this case, I'm cheating because I also help manage this. So I can just myself merge the pull request. Most likely in your case, you won't be able to merge it yourself. But if I click merge and confirm, there we go. I've merged my project. I've deleted the branch and the pull request is closed. If I want, I can even delete my own fork. But for now, let's keep it the way it is. Let's check the Start Here guidelines and see if my name has been added to the list. If I scroll all the way down, hey, check that out. There's my name on the list. So I've been added to the contributors list. That was pretty easy, right? And the cool part is that now if I go to my profile, I actually have Zero to Mastery as one of my organizations. So if you're able to add yourself to the contributors list, you can actually join the Zero to Mastery organization and have this little icon appear on your GitHub profile. And lots of GitHub profiles have organizations, so people usually have their workplace icon in here. So it's just a nice little thing to have on your profile to show that you're involved in the programming community. So we've just made a pull request, which is step 2, and that was pretty fast, right? Finally, the next step is to go join an actual project and start contributing the way we just learned in our Zero to Mastery organization. Now, there's actually a guide that we provided for you to figure out what project you choose, what's going to be good for you. We also have in our Discord a group projects section where we can look at some of the current projects that are happening, or you can just go to the Zero to Mastery organization and pick any of the repositories to contribute to. Now, in the next video, we're going to contribute to one of these projects and show you a real-life scenario. I'll see you in that one.